Hey, how's it going, guys? Nate here, and today we got a bit of a rambly pants video discussing why Fallout 4 seems to have much less replay value than previous Bethesda titles, particularly Skyrim, Fallout 3, even New Vegas, and why so many people, myself included, caught themselves going back to those games after they beat Fallout 4's main story for the first or second time. So, without further ado, let's do further! To start off, I think the biggest factor influencing Fallout 4's replayability, or better, relative lack thereof, is the absence of many significant choices. Essentially, you had one decision to make in Fallout 4 that actually mattered, that actually held any sort of significant ramifications, and that was which faction you chose to side with. Other than that, you really didn't get much of a say in the fate of the Commonwealth, or even your character itself. Now sure, here and there were a few minor side quests in which you had some say-so in how you progressed through them, but ultimately, they weren't exactly that significant in the grand scheme of things. Compare this to a title like Skyrim, for instance, which had a relatively linear main quest line in that you didn't really get offered a whole lot of meaningful choices up until the end, but had a huge abundance of side quests and factions you can join that really altered what happened to the region you were in, you know? You could side with the Empire or the Stormcloaks, giving them control of all of Skyrim and ousting Jarls in the process. You can side with the Forsworn and Markarth, assigning them de facto power over the city. You could massacre the Dark Brotherhood or kill the Emperor. There were a whole lot of huge decisions you could make that really altered the world around you, and you could notice what was happening. You could notice as Imperial soldiers walked around former Stormcloak cities after you captured them, and that was pretty cool. It felt like you had actual control over what happened, and you could build characters appropriately. Some playthroughs you'd want to be a bit of a good guy, you'd want to be an Imperial loyalist, you know, you'd side with them in the Civil War, you'd side with them in Markarth, so to speak, and then you'd side with them against the Dark Brotherhood, or you can do the exact opposite, and that was really cool. Now, to be fair, Fallout 4 has also offered us a bit of choice in that regard, too. You know, you might want to create a new character to play through certain quest lines and whatnot, but altogether, in my own opinion, the main quests of Fallout 4 really are just relative copies of the same thing, and you can kind of already imagine what the outcome will be every single time you play. It's like, oh, either the Institute blows up or it doesn't, and you see either Brotherhood of Steel Soldiers or Railroad Men or Minutemen walking around cities. And while, of course, it does hold an impact, once you've beaten that main quest line, there's really nothing left to do in the game. There are miscellaneous quests here or there, but that's essentially it. There's nothing left to try and do throughout the entirety of the title. Even Fallout 3, for instance, did a thing similar to Skyrim, whereas it had a relatively linear main quest line up till the end, but then you had so many side quests you can choose from that altered what happened to the Capital Wasteland. Side with the raiders and slavers in Paradise Falls, save the people in Big Town, or do the exact opposite. Blow up Megaton if you wanted to. That would be rewarded with a very accommodating slideshow at the end of the game that really reflects upon how your character progressed, and the karma system really helped that out, in my opinion. So I feel like Fallout 4's lack of those aspects really made it a less desirable game to play over and over and over again, like people would Fallout 3 or New Vegas or Skyrim. Furthermore, we have a significantly dumbed-down dialogue system, and I don't want to be too critical, because admittedly it was a very ambitious project for Bethesda to undertake, giving your character a voice protagonist, but ultimately I feel like it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth giving your character a voice at the cost of losing so much freedom to control the direction of a conversation, and even the quest lines that these conversations affected, you know? Previously, in Fallout 3, Skyrim, New Vegas, it wasn't uncommon to have 6 or 7 different dialogue choices depending on your character's current skills and actions taken in the past. Whereas in Fallout 4, usually you have one of 4 options, which you can choose any one of them in which you'll say a unique sentence here or there, followed by a generic line you would have heard no matter which option you picked anyway. And at first you don't really notice this, but it does become painstakingly obvious as you progress through the game and try and replay certain quests or try and replay your story. It's like, wow, I chose something unique here, but I'm saying the same thing and I'm getting a generic response no matter what. And it becomes rather frustrating, and even the skill points you invest in something like Charisma don't really impact your gameplay that much. If you have a lot of points in Charisma, such as myself, you're usually going to get no more than a few extra caps here and there by using that perk. Sometimes you'll get information a little bit earlier than you would have anyway, but it's still ultimately very unrewarding dialogue when it boils down to it, and I feel like this really affected my experience with Fallout 4. Now, in Bethesda's defense, this fundamental lack of choice you are given doesn't seem to be the result of them trying to rush a product out too early or of sheer laziness, but rather, they tried to do something new. They tried to concentrate the majority of your decisions into one massive main quest line. They tried to give you a voice protagonist, and while I believe they had noble intentions, ultimately they kind of failed on them. Every now and then, somebody, a company, a faction, an entity, will try to do something new, and it won't always work out, and it seems like this is what happened here with Fallout 4's choices and dialogue systems. Now, they have also made significant steps to try and correct this. From the looks of the Nuka World DLC, we're getting a lot more choices in regards to being a bad guy. We did get a much more expansive dialogue system in the Far Harbor DLC, as well as got the opportunity to have a little bit more say-so of what happened there as well. But ultimately, it does seem that Bethesda has learned from their mistakes and are likely already working to incorporate them. So by the time Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, or Fallout 5, or whatever their other projects may entail, they'll know to go back to their original system, or they might try something new again, which I hope they don't do, to be honest. I was a fan of how they spread out choices throughout the entirety of the game. But anyway, guys, I am rambling now, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Like if you liked, dislike if you didn't enjoy it, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.